outside the box reviews, we are gonna feel the wrath of the Lich King, because today we are taking a look at the NECA Heroes of the Storm Wave 2 Arthas figure. As I said with the previous two Heroes of the Storm figures, I used to be a big StarCraft World of Warcraft fan, but I haven't played either game in a very, very long time now. And this Wave 2 was a character from Diablo, which I've never played, so I completely skipped that guy. And then a deluxe figure that's more money than I'm really interested in spending on a Heroes of the Storm figure at this point. But Arthas I always thought was one of the coolest villains in the Warcraft series. I started playing World of Warcraft right before Wrath of the Lich King came out, so it was a character I really wanted to pick up in plastic and check out. And I'll preview right now. I am not disappointed. Arthas only comes with one accessory, but it's the only one he needs. We have Frostmourne here, his sword, and it looks spectacular. Starting here at the hilt, you can see the little skull head back there on the very base of the sword, looking great. The handle here, the whole handle is actually a removable piece. We have a little keyed peg in there, and then opposite, of course, inside the sword itself. That lets you insert it into his hand while letting him have a very closed grasp on his hand, which is nice. Though it is a very tight fit, so you might have to use some heat to kind of loosen up his hand a bit to get the sword in there. The skull on the sword itself looks great, very menacing looking. It has that very pounded metal effect that we saw on the AVP Predators, so I feel like they've just been using that paint job a lot lately. It's got glowing blue eyes, which are really cool. Big ram horns kind of looping around the crossguard here, which have their own little skulls on them, looking very nice. Going further down the blade, we have the kind of spikes sticking out the side, this very jagged shape to the sword itself, with this gold center here kind of outlined in black, which is really cool looking. The only thing you could ask for a little further, and that's more of a Warcraft detail I think than an actual Heroes of the Storm detail, would be to have all the runes and things carved or painted on here. However, I know Heroes of the Storm kind of goes for a more simplistic look with some of their character designs, so if you're following that game, I guess it makes sense that they're not really here, but I would love to see them. The head sculpt here on Arthas looks really good. We have the very pale, almost purpley blue flesh underneath. His eyes are really nicely painted in there. I almost would have been happy if they were just the glowing blue that the sword had, but they actually detailed him out with pupils. We even really see his nose there underneath the guard on his helmet. Helmet's a nice gunmetal gray. We do have kind of a silver bluish jewel there in the center. His hair is coming off also in a blue. This is a rubberized plastic. The only thing I really have a gripe with this is that it kind of sticks to the same shape as his jawline, so that when you pick his head up, it really just kind of hovers in the air, which looks a little strange. The top of his helmet here looks spectacular. We got another little skull up here at the top, and all these spikes rising out of it, just looking very threatening and very cool. Back of the helmet here kind of has these armored layers. Once again, just spectacular looking. I really like the sculpted detail here. His right pauldron is this large skull. Once again, we have the glowing blue eye effect. Spectacular detail here, mixing in that gunmetal gray, the darker grays, and this nice gold paint as well, really making him look very regal. His left pauldron is much larger. This big kind of arched up section here. We even see some scratches in there, which is nice attention to detail. And then these just massive spikes rising out of it, which look really cool. Now both pauldrons are rubberized, and you can kind of lift them up and see they attach at the back of his armor, so they really aren't going to hinder your mobility too much, which I really like. Coming up the back here, we do have a purple cape, which is cool. It's actual soft goods. We have a tattered end here. We have some rips in it. The only thing I would have really liked is if they would have added a little black paint to it to kind of weather it up a little bit. I think it looks a little too clean for somebody who's living up in Northrend, but I like they did a soft goods cape. They've given us precedent for doing it before with their Batman figures and things, and I just really think it helps add to the dramatic look of this figure. If we lift the cape up, we can see there's not a whole lot going on. The back of his armor isn't super interesting. Just kind of a scale mail going on back here, though it is nicely painted. And then we see part of his chest armor coming through the back. The cape also looks like it would be removable. We actually see it's attached around these pegs, but mine seems to be glued in place, so I'm not going to mess with it and try to take it off. Plus, he looks better with it on anyway. The armor here on his chest looks really good. There's some more of the rivet effects going on in the gold here, and the pounded metal look for the breastplate. Then we have a lower layer here with some extra armor, but mostly just that scale mail. And then his big skull belt with more gold ornamentation on it. The big glowing eyes again, and another piece of soft goods purple that just kind of hangs down the front. Armor on his wrists carries the same motif as the rest. Nice gold outline to it, some gold gems, skull with glowing blue eyes, and some big ass spikes. Definitely knows what he likes in his clothing options. But that does also have some kind of fur detailing though It doesn't look too realistic, very cartoony looking around the base here. We also get the buckle, the strap going around his wrist, and then the brown gloves, which do have a good leathery look to them. I like the kind of sculpting of the wrinkles in here. I think that looks really nice. His left hand is also open, which is cool. Very good gesture to have for him, but all the other detail on his arm is the same. Going down to the legs, we have this upper leg armor as well, kind of almost looking like a spine with ribs. This is all rubberized to help you move him around. We do also have the strap going around his leg there. Big high knees on his boot, another rubberized piece, carrying on that skull motif with the spike. Then we have a furry bottom here, which really doesn't look too furry. It just kind of looks spiky and weird, but pretty sure it's supposed to be a fur effect. Then we have his brown boots with that kind of steel toe added on there, which looks really nice. And we do have peg holes at the bottom of his feet as well. For articulation, Arthas has a ball joint at the base of his neck. He can look an okay amount down, an okay amount up. He can swivel his head side to side as well as tilt. Arms are on pin socket joints, so they'll go really far up. Like I said, not hindered because of the rubberized shoulders. You could really get them out of the way and get his arm going almost straight up, though it doesn't look weird from the side or anything. They just move it out to the side. This joint's a little stiff on mine, so it's kind of hard to move, but moves pretty well once you get it going. We can bend and swivel here at the elbow. The bend isn't the greatest thing, maybe about 45 degrees, but he's got very big bulky arms and even bulkier gloves, so I'm not really surprised. His hands also do appear to have a ball joint in them, but they really mostly just swivel, and it's hindered at that just because of the bulky armor, so you can really only get a little range out of the swivel, and then up and down with it is pretty negligible. But here in the torso, we do get two ball joints. We get one at the upper body, so you can go forward, back, side to side, rotate, and then one there at the waist. The way the belt is sculpted here, it kind of feels like the joints are right on top of each other, and I honestly feel like I could have gotten away with just a single ball joint because I feel like I spend more time trying to line up the armor and make it look right than I do actually enjoying that added articulation it brings. Legs are on a pin socket joint. They'll go pretty far forward, decently back. You also go out to the side. You have to play with the rubberized armor again to get it to really work. You can swivel at the upper leg. Have a single jointed knee, once again about 45 degrees. We could also swivel there. And then a pretty nice ball joint here at the foot. For a size comparison, here's Arthas standing next to Illidan, and Illidan looks like he's just a little bit taller, plus he has that gigantic top knot going on. But I think these guys work pretty well in scale with each other. A night elf should definitely be a little taller than a human. If I remember right, Arthas was kind of beefed up in size to make him more intimidating, so I think this works pretty darn well. I think they look really cool together. And I'm really happy that if NECA was doing Warcraft characters from Heroes of the Storm, they started off with two of the biggest baddies, at least from the era when I played the game. And overall, I just absolutely love this Arthas figure. I think NECA did a phenomenal job. I really enjoyed the Illidan figure they did from Heroes of the Storm. I enjoyed the Nova a little less, especially after her leg broke off. But this Arthas is just one of those figures that I love having handy to just pose and mess around with. The joints all feel really nice and chunky. Nothing feels too delicate on him. Articulation is pretty decent, though nothing spectacular. But the sculpt is phenomenal. I feel like there's always something cool to look at on him. And I think he captures the character really, really well. I kind of wish, as I do with all these figures, that they were a little more specific to the game they originated from and had a little less of that Heroes of the Storm stylization to them. But I still think they did a phenomenal job capturing a very regal and very intimidating Lich King here. So this figure gets a solid recommendation. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And until next time, this has been another Outside the Box Reviews. Stay tuned for more to come.